Hello, welcome to another edition of Let's Talk Criterion, and in this edition we look at The Trial, directed by Orson Welles and adapted from the novel by Franz Kafka. Famous for Metamorphosis, where the central character Gregor Samsa awoke to find he had transformed into a giant insect. Now, such surreal constructions were the stock and trade of Kafka, so Orson Welles choosing his work to adapt was a good option, and certainly he wrote an excellent screenplay. It tells the story of Joseph K., a man arrested and prosecuted by a remote, inaccessible authority with the nature of his crime revealed, neither to him nor to the reader. Heavily influenced by Dostoevsky's Crime and Punishment and the brothers Karamazov, Kafka even went so far as to call Dostoevsky a blood relative. And like Kafka's two other novels, that's The Castle and America, The Trial was never completed, although it does include a chapter which appears to bring the story to an intentionally abrupt ending. Now, Welles stated immediately after completing the film that The Trial was the best film he had ever made. The film begins with Welles narrating Kafka's parable Before the Law to pin screen scenes directed by the artists Alexandra Alexiev and Claire. Anthony Perkins stars as Joseph K., a bureaucrat who is accused of a never-specified crime, and Jean Moreau, Romy Schneider and Elsa Martinelli play women who become involved in various ways in Joseph's trial and his life. Welles himself plays the advocate Joseph's lawyer and the film's principal antagonist. The Trial has grown in reputation over the years, and some critics, including Roger Ebert, have called it a masterpiece. It is often praised for its scenic design and cinematography, the latter of which includes disorienting camera angles and unconventional use of focus. And Anthony Perkins was a good choice to play Joseph K., the bureaucrat who awakens to find strange men have entered his room, men who treat him as a suspect and yet give him no information. Perkins could turn in an instant from ingratiating smarminess to anger, from supplication to indignation, his voice barking out ultimatums and then suddenly going high-pitched and stuttery. Watch his body language, for instance, as he goes into his confiding mode, hitching closer to the other characters, buddy style, looking forward to neat secrets. Now, the film follows his attempts to discover what he's charged with and how he can defend himself. Every Freudian slip is used against him. He refers to a pornograph player, and a man in a black suit carefully notes that down. He finds himself in a courtroom where the audience is cued by secret signs from the judge. He petitions the court's official portrait painter, who claims he can fix cases and obtain a provisional acquittal. And in the longest sequence in the film, he visits the cavernous home of the advocate, Orson Welles, as an ominous sybarite who spends much of his time in bed, smoking cigars and being tended to by his mistress, Romy Schneider. Welles captures the Kafkaesqueness of the trial so well by immersing the viewer in a seemingly intangible and alien atmosphere, whether it be the contradicting styles of architecture, the lack of one unanimous accent, or its many multifaceted characters. Welles gets us to believe that this story is not of our world, but somewhere off in the void where the fabrics of space, time and reason buckle under its absurdity. Now, though the interior and exterior expanses of the film seem endless, it still manages somehow to make the viewer feel very claustrophobic. From the get-go, there's this overwhelming sense of urgency that pushes the story forward, and as Joseph K. travels deeper into the labyrinthine world of the trial, the characters and obstructions he encounters only intensify that sense of claustrophobia and urgency, so that no matter where he goes, there will always be someone watching him or someone waiting to throw him further off course. Now, all of these unsettling tactics that Welles so expertly employs in this film are done in favour of instilling an inherent sense of guilt in Joseph K. His arrest is very well unjustified and built upon no prior foundation whatsoever. The viewer starts to realise that Joseph K. himself doesn't totally believe he's truly innocent. We see this with the many sexual innuendos and allusions to smut and pornography that always follow him and his quick aversion to them. Sex and guilt are two things that are intrinsically linked within modern, or at least Western, society, and by not omitting this aspect from the film, he utilises Kafka's exploration of guilt and self-disgust through a subconscious desire. The trial has been given a 4K restoration, and this version from Studio Canal in Europe that Criterion is using in this release. The disc comes as a 4K UHD presentation on a single disc, and the second disc contains the following special features. A new audio commentary featuring film historian Joseph McBride. Filming the Trial, a 1981 documentary about the film's production. Archival interviews with Welles, actor Jean Moreau, and the director of photography Edmund Richard. There's a trailer for the film, and an essay by the author Jonathan Lethem. And cover art for the trial, which is incredibly striking, is by the regular contributor to Criterion, Nassim Hixon. The Trial is a bold, personal film that Welles himself considered to be one of his greatest. Dizzying camera angles, expressionistic lighting, increasingly surreal locations. In those locations, Welles unleashed the full force of his visual brilliance to convey the nightmarish disorientation of a world gone mad. The film comes in an aspect ratio of 1:66:1 and has a running time of 118 minutes, and is available on 4K UHD as a 2-disc UHD Blu-ray combo from Tuesday the 19th of September, and it comes to the collection as Spine 1191. And the trial brings this edition of Let's Talk Criterion to a close. Now, there are 2 releases coming out on the same day, so we'll be having another episode immediately following this for La Bamba. So tune into that. Until then, from me, it's goodbye, and above all, good Criterion viewing.